Welcome to Activate Your Life. I am your host, Erin Esser, and I believe that life isn't a battleground. It's a playground of possibility where self-sabotage is transmuted into self-mastery. On this show, I share tools such as human design, astrology, inner child, and shadow work that help you disrupt your unconscious programming so that you can begin to experience the life that you desire. Don't forget to like, share, and hit the subscribe button to receive valuable information each week that will change your life. Thank you for joining me and welcome to the show. Hey, welcome to the Activate Your Life show. And today I'm really excited to have Meredith Swaim. She is an astrologer and a deprogrammer and so many things. And today I'll let her talk and fill more in for you. But today we're really going to talk about some tools that we can use, astrology being, a really big tool of self-awareness, and talk about how we can use that and the power behind that our own knowledge of self-knowledge. So welcome, Meredith.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Absolutely. I'm excited to talk about this. I love astrology, and we get in some really deep and amazing conversations. And so I wanted to bring you on and talk a little bit about this and maybe whatever else decides to show up in our awareness.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah. So do you want to share a little bit about what you do? And I know you do so much more than just astrology and, but I wanted to just share kind of what you do, but then how you even use astrology as a tool and kind of what you're up to right now with that.
Sure. Yeah. So I guess kind of like you, astrology is like a vector for what I actually do, which is assist people in integrating themselves and to break, soul contracts and agreements and to release programming where it's thick here, the programming. And so that's, part of what I do is to help people to recognize when they are running some kind of program, some kind of series of zeros and ones that, keeps them sort of stuck in a loop. And, but yeah, I do some intuitive counseling. I'm an ordained minister, and I like to teach astrology, and I like to lead groups. And, in January, on January 24th, I'm starting a 6-week series where I'll be, sort of running people through the signs and giving them tools to help them to integrate based on each sign. And so that's what I'm up to right now. And, definitely have gained a lot of self-knowledge as well through the use of astrology in my own life, and just kind of looking at the archetypes of the zodiac and, this sky that we're under.
Yeah.
Sort of looking at that as both outer space and inner space, and, sort of how to the multiverse is within you. So that's kind of what I like to remind people of, their own essence, their own true power outside of
it's as above, so below, right? So
and below, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So and I love that. And you've been in astrology for a number of years, haven't you? 7-8 years or more?
No. Well, I opened up my business officially in 2016.
Okay.
And before that, I guess I've been studying it for 10 years or so,
okay.
And opened up my business 4 years ago. So
gotcha.
Yeah.
So what do you feel what is maybe a couple big things that you feel studying astrology, as far as bringing in your own self-awareness, what do you know with astrology about yourself that maybe you wouldn't have known or given yourself permission, to
Right.
be without that knowledge?
Well, I think astrology for me was kind of a foot in the door of some of the esoteric, some of the, I don't know, the energetic components of this reality that maybe in this avatar, a lot of us can't see. So I guess, gosh, there's so many things I think that it was discovering like my own chart and like looking at, you know, some of the components of it. Like, for example, I have a Pisces moon and, you know, have a lot of, you know, sort of significators, or I don't even know if that's a word.
It's okay. We can make
Indicators,
one up.
whatever.
Yeah.
In my chart,
indicators. Yeah, maybe.
Indicators, right. I have a lot of indicators of my chart of being very empathic or being very spongy and like being able to very easily like merge with people and kind of like really feel like in my own experience what they're feeling.
Yeah.
And I think like that was really like the beginning of like true self-healing, that perhaps I don't actually have all of these problems, but maybe I'm just like running other people's energy and like kind of absorbing everything in my environment. And so that's just one aspect of many. I mean, I think I've always been a very intense person. And so I have a lot of so I use different house systems. I'm not sure if you're into looking at multiple house systems, but in my Placidus house system chart, which I kind of look at Placidus and Porphyry for like the psychological way of being. So if I'm going to read a natal chart, I'll look at Placidus, but if I'm going to look at like the moving energy to kind of see like, okay, what's going on? I'll look at whole sign or equal sign. So I just figured I would like kind of throw that out there. And but in my Placidus chart, sorry, what?
No, I was gonna say, yeah, no, it's good. I mean, it's interesting to bring up because it is different, you know, in the different houses. I mean, I have, you know, different. I have Uranus in my 4th house in Placidus, where it's whole house, it's 3rd, you know, it's 29th degree. You know, it's just it's different, you know. So yeah,
absolutely. And I think that, you know, in ways like so in my Placidus chart, I have a lot of 8th house placements. And to me, that feels very relevant, very accurate. I've always been like wanting to go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper into the layers of, you know, the micro and the macro and how that relates to each other. And, you know, I think that the level of like fixation, you know, as well, like can really be thought of as like an 8th house trait. So, and also it's the house of astrology. I mean, partially, right? It's like the house of the occult and the energetic, you know, sort of like hidden aspects of life, only hidden from us because of the programming from my perspective.
With death and rebirth, the phoenix, you know, all
right. That. Yeah, totally. And trauma and, you know, all that stuff. So I guess like that to me, like reading about the 8th house a lot when I very first discovered just like that there was more than just a sun sign, right?
Right.
And kind of like learning about some of those themes really like, I was like, oh my God, I feel so seen, you know, so heard. And I mean, there's so much, like there's more where that came from. Like, you know, I have a lot of Virgo in my chart, and I don't think people realize, but it doesn't necessarily like all of the components of your chart don't always show up right away. So when I very first started learning about astrology, I was really young, and I really grew into and then grew out of my Virgo. I have Virgo, Mercury, Venus, and Mars, and they're all
my gosh
together.
Wow.
It's so much. Yeah, my head is really busy.
Well, then you're a mental projector too, right? So that's like, it's like so different.
That's a crazy. People look at my human design chart and they're like, what the fuck? Like,
you know? No, it's interesting though. I love that though. I mean, I know for me too, it's like when I mean, one of the things for me, it's been really about self-acceptance. It's like, oh, that's why there's nothing really wrong with me, or there's nothing, it's just who I am. And so between different tools, right? Like with astrology, even human design, you know, I learned first, you know, that I was an emotional, I'm emotionally defined within human design, but then also with my Pluto conjuncts my moon within astrology. And so like, oh my God, of course. Like I just such deep emotions and for so much of my life, you know, it was like so intense. And I thought that something was wrong with me for a long time, because I would be afraid of my own like power in that, within my emotions and stuff. And I scared the shit out of people at times too. And so it's just, but like with my language and things too. And so but understanding that and knowing like, oh, it's a sword for sure. But how do I use that to become more conscious of it so that it wasn't in the shadow,
Pluto and Moon in Libra, right? Kind of like, I think about like somebody getting really mad if they're a kid and like just zapping all of the electricity in the house. Like, suddenly like they get mad and then all of the lights go out or something, Oh my gosh. I wouldn't be surprised if that ever happened to you.
It was intense. It's funny though, like not that long ago, probably about 4 or 5 years ago, I had a few times, and I wasn't even upset, but some electrical things would happen in the house that we were in. And it would like be like when I'd walk by, and I'm like, what's happening right now? And it'd be in the middle of the night. Like I'd be up and nobody else would be up. And like a lamp would go on like as I'm walking by, and it wasn't like a motion or any, I was just like, what the, okay.
Just and you have Uranus too, like right by your moon sign. So I guess that's kind of like this, I mean, that's to me, and like, obviously like I have kind of an unusual perspective of things, but that's like, you create glitches in the matrix, you like have, I think that's a strong amount of like, I don't know, they call it like meta gene, or like the ability to kind of like, I don't know, like arc out of the simulation at times, which is like what, I don't know. I would love to talk to you more about that, but I don't think that this is the time nor place.
let's like, we can do that in a conversation off camera, right? But it's interesting. And I mean, this is a beautiful thing, right? About using astrology to learn and more. And I mean, honestly too, what I hear in this also is that we all, I feel anyway, and I would love to get your, thoughts on this, but I feel like we all as human beings are so incredibly fucking powerful and magical. And that when we start to understand like some of these things, we can start to see them in a different light or pay attention to them more, and being able to show up in a different way than, for ourselves and for others, and start to really use this, this energy, this life force energy that we have, in different ways. So I don't know. I would love to get your take on that.
Yeah, definitely. So I think that, gosh, I mean, if I could just be a bummer really fast, I would say that like a large part of like the systems that like at least I grew up in, and like I know that probably you grew up in as well, like it's designed to sort of like fragment the consciousness and to fragment the psyche, and to sort of take like the imagination, which in my opinion, imagination is creation. That's what like, that is the power of like, even temporarily being in a human avatar, is like the ability to really create. And that's a very soulful experience. So it's definitely like felt at times like maybe like working upstream in kind of a system that, maybe not for too much longer, who knows, right? I mean, that's just like how I see it going, is like, and we can talk about that more, but like definitely, this is designed to fragment the consciousness and to, kind of cause us to forget how powerful our creative consciousness actually is. And I think that we're in a remembering now, which is exciting. I mean, we're in the beginning of like the beginning stages of that. But yeah, so definitely, yeah, totally. And I think that the key is kind of like you said with astrology or with human design. I mean, I think like, you and I were talking about this like maybe a month ago, how it can be helpful to see the chart and to kind of like get a taste for it and see like what your keys are. But then I think at some point, like there comes a time like in the fool's journey, so to speak, where you kind of have to like graduate from, okay, well, my moon is conjunct Pluto, so this is just the way that I am, or like my moon is in Pisces, and, you know, maybe I spent all day with someone who's very draining for lack of boundaries, and that I feel like shit, and oh, this is just who I am, you know. No, like at some point we have to like make different choices and sort of like work with the gifts and like, you know, sort of, do our best to pull ourselves together so that we're not like.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, no, I love that. It's like, 'cause we can use, right? We can use any tool or any kind of thing that we have as an excuse to be like, or the expression of it to be like coming out in the shadow, or, you know, at least, you know, whatever serving way possible. Or we can choose and go, okay, how do I want to show up in this energy? Like, I know I have this,
right?
But it's like really comes down to like, you're saying, like, how do we want to own? And we have to own it. You know, it's not an excuse for bad behavior, or it's not an excuse for less than what we're actually like capable of. Right. But like, I love this too. And I want to talk more because I know like your class that you're having too is all about this, about integrating and stuff. And so we can go through like maybe the signs as with your, with your class. But like, you know, that's the thing, like every sign has a shadow and a light, right? And I mean, I even like it even with the gene keys, like Richard, oh my God, I can't remember his last name now, but anyway.
Just looking into this the other day. So interesting that you brought that up.
Oh, really? Yeah, oh my God, I love gene keys, you know, but like he talks about the shadow and the gift and the city, you know, and so, cause it's like getting out of that binary, right? It's not just this or this, there's a spectrum, right? It's like this pendulum. And so we have these energies within us, and or these archetypes or whatever, you know, like Jung talks about astrology a lot too, and the psyche and like all these, and we have them all at play. But like the beautiful thing for me about astrology that I love too is like, okay, so again, like you're saying, I have like, you know, moon conjunct Pluto, right? So I know the archetype of Pluto, right? And the power and the intensity and like, but like there's integrity though too, right? There's like so much to Pluto, and it's like, it's just intense. And so like I can use it and then explode on everybody, right? If I'm emotionally charged, and be like, well, it's just who I am, you know, and be like, deal with it, people. Or I can be like, oh, wait a minute. I know the power that this is, and I now am conscious of it because I know it. And so now I can choose to express that in a way that's going to like, you know, either be the sword that cuts through that when it needs to, or be like, is this necessary at this time right now? And like be more self-aware, be more emotionally aware, you know, and really paying attention to how I'm feeling so that it can come out in the best way. And the timing, it's all about the timing for me, you know, it's like, is this the best time, right? That like, excuse me, but that takes being able to be aware of the energies at play rather than just being like, well, is it, you know, using it like you're saying as an excuse to,
I'm just a Scorpio, so I'll just be an asshole. Not, you know, I'm just, but.
Or like you're saying with Pisces, right? Like, oh, I'm just codependent, you know, I'm empathic. So that just, I'm going to be drained all the time. And it's just who I am.
That's just my nature, is to be drained. Like that is a series of zeros and ones right there. Truthfully. And yeah, I mean, it kind of reminds me of like some, you know, okay, like, you know, I'm just gonna like tell like just a tiny story about like I contract for this astrology app, right? And like I was like working on it, and this person comes in and they were like, how do I feel? And I was like, you know, what do you mean? And so I looked at their chart, and, you know, Gemini moon, right? 7th house. And I was just kind of like, you know, I can't tell you how it is that you feel. Oh, but I'm just a Gemini moon. It's in this is just how I am. And I'm like, yeah, but like, no, like you have to like be willing to sit with yourself to like find the center of that archetype. Otherwise, you're just going to be externalizing and, you know, and I mean, really like I just had a really good sort of like a catchphrase come into, or like a slogan come into my mind of like, don't outsource your power, you know, like sit with yourself. Like, I don't know, people need to go inside early and often. I need to go inside early and often. Otherwise I'm
completely agree. Well, and these are all tools, right? And I mean, a big thing I say too is like use them as a tool, but don't be a tool like don't be the tool, so that's the thing, right? We can use
it,
them.
don't let it use you. Yeah,
exactly.
Totally.
Like, yeah, use it as a tool of what it's designed for, but don't be the tool, so
yeah, fuck yeah, absolutely.
or then we're just in this victim mindset, and then we're at the mercy of this external like authority that we're putting that astrology or any tool as this external, like, well, there's nothing I can do about it. And it's like this learned helplessness, so
Right.
talk about like let's go around the wheel, because I know that like class 2,
totally.
like the basis of your class, right, is the integration part of because we have all these energies, all of us, no matter if there's nothing in the house, right, we still have these energies. It's just how they're expressed, and maybe some of us have more of this than the other, just like, I mean, it's just diversity, right? We're all different. So like
Totally.
I would love it, like, let's go around the wheel and talk a little bit about some of these archetypes and how you're using them to be able to help people integrate.
Sure. So the first sign, we'll start with the first sign of Aries. So what I have noticed in a lot of my clients is that, largely women, right? And largely not taking care of themselves in the way that, they feel they should, or, they tend to like maybe focus more on relationships or focus more on other people's happiness before their own. So, in the very first segment, we address like self-denial, and like the homework for that week is like self-awareness, and like,
nice.
Can you be aware of yourself in space, and can you and these are tools to come back to yourself. So for Aries, I give, tools of like breath work and like breath of fire, like really active kind of breath work, and also just like movement, like moving your physical body, which I'm a Leo and I have Sag rising, so I really need movement to be okay. Like I need to dance, I need to like shake, I need to get shit out, and so there's that aspect. And then the other piece with Aries is, disowning anger, and like, not experiencing anger, and like, kind of allowing people to walk all over you. I see that a lot. Like, okay, well, what would happen if you were to assert yourself in this space, when you do have somebody sort of like infiltrating your boundaries? And so that is what we go over in Aries, like how to protect your spark, like the very first spark.
Right. Well, I was going to say, Aries is like the warrior. Well, because Aries is the warrior, right? So it's like, I understand. I have Mars in Aries, and so it's very much like this, like how am I going to express this energy? I mean, he's at home, right? But so it's like, how does that get expressed? And like you're saying, self-assertiveness, and being able to say like, no, I am, right? Like, it's like the I am. It's like that is Aries, right? And
absolutely.
Yeah, and that power that comes from that. So yeah,
totally. And it's interesting too, because there's a time and place for that kind of energy, right? Like if you're at the coffee shop and somebody like is having a bad day and like does not make your drink properly, that's not the time or place to exhibit that sort of like anger. We also touch on the other side of the imbalance too, is like, what is the time and place, and like the difference between sort of like anger that sort of goes unchecked, and then like, look, when you launch it at somebody, right? And the difference between that and righteous anger. Like personally, I feel like right now we are in a moment where righteous anger is actually very justifiable. So, and, to be able to use that, to be able to stand up for whether you want to, just any and all issues across the board, right? I mean, it's clear to me that we have like an overgrowth of corruption, but like, and there's so many different, it's so polarized right now, but like, you know what I mean? So.
Well, and in so many levels, and I think like I'm a parent, right? I have 3 kids, and I was just thinking about that anger. My little guy was beat up at his school a few months back, and in my opinion, the school didn't do what I felt that it should do. That child was still back at school the next day and nothing was really done. And I was fucking angry.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm sure, as you should have been.
My son was like beat up, literally like beat up, like took him in. Chiropractors, like he was like muscle, like tensing, he was like guarding his muscles. I mean, in like 4 different areas of his back. Like it was not a good thing. And so, yeah, I definitely get it. That's the right, like we need that fiery warrior energy in those situations. I love this because this is like really like shadow stuff too. It's like going in and really like being aware. And is this appropriate right now? Is this not? Like, is this like, do I just lash out at everybody or, like road rage, right? All those things. So yeah. I love that.
Yeah. And so the next sign is Taurus. Then we look at like, your ability to receive and your ability to like take up space. It's kind of like Aries and Taurus, that class, it's 6 weeks. So the 2 signs are together. So like Aries and Taurus is a lot about embodiment, food, your ability to nourish and nurture yourself. And we talk about money as well and sort of like removing the Babylonian curse from money and, how to sort of like interact with it in a way that feels energetically clean and, spending the money that you have in ways that, maybe benefit your community or like benefit small business or, we just sort of have like a conversation around that. And also, I give homework to break a vow of poverty. Like if you have a lifetime in which you have made a vow of poverty, that still shows up. So that's what we talk about with Taurus, and really refining as well, like your values, your relationship to nature, your ability to build where you are with what you have. And are you sure you want me to go through all of the signs, like all of them? Because I can. I mean, I don't mind, but this is just like some of what we do. And then for Gemini, because I do perceive that we live in like a mind-controlled society, we like register the energetic signature of mind control. So just to give everybody who's listening to this, whenever they're listening to this, some kind of idea, like if something is preying on your emotions and like hooking into your emotional centers, that's indicative that like that thought stream or that feeling, like the thought feeling state is like not being generated by you, and that you might be possibly being like emotionally and mentally manipulated.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I think it's, freedom is something that is coming up a lot, right?
Yeah.
Right now.
Yeah.
And for good reason, in my perspective. And freedom may have always been somewhat of an illusion, but freedom is of the mind. Freedom is of consciousness, first. And that's like where it starts. I think people have kind of an inverted like perspective of that, where they think like freedom is like of the physical first. And like maybe we've always been in kind of a free range prison, for the last like eons, right? So
yeah. Well, it's interesting. And like, so that's Gemini, right? And so like, how would you say that relates right now? Because like right now, North Node is in Gemini for the, collective. So, I mean, how do you see that like relating?
Oh, you're putting me on the spot. No, it's good. It's good. I mean, I'll share shit. I don't care.
Hey, this is Erin Esser, and I really hope that you are enjoying the show. I wanted to ask you this question. Imagine what your life could be like if you knew your purpose. I work with astrology and human design as tools of activating your life. I'm able to pinpoint specifically where in your life are your challenges and limitations, and then also be able to pinpoint where your dharma is, where your freedom is, where your liberation is, what your purpose is in this lifetime. For more information on my karma to dharma readings that dramatically shift people's lives, head to my website, erinesser.com, or you'll find the link below. Now back to the show.
Specifically with control, I think that, some people refer to this thing that's because it's obviously something. I'm not saying that it's nothing, because people are getting sick from something.
Yeah.
But there is sort of like this idea in some of the alternative communities, where like nuanced thought is way more acceptable, that it is kind of like a mind virus, and it's like, and the vector for contagion, if you will, is through, electrical. So like media, social media, all those different forms. And looking at that, like, I think that that's something that, has people feeling contracted, compressed, feeling unable to live their lives, and so there's there's lots within that, I think, that falls under the category of mockingbird media mind control, right? So that's that. And and also, I mean, with everything that's going on with like politically right now, I think is like hugely, because the orbiting north node right now is, and the nodes in general, because there's not just one, like the north node is in Gemini, right? And the south node is in Sagittarius. And that's all about like really checking and questioning your beliefs, and like maybe not being so certain about like just what's happening in the narrative. Like, I think the people that from my perspective are going to be the most challenged moving into 2021 are the people who have not questioned any of their paradigms and just kind of feel so certain that like their paradigm is like the right one. Like there is no like one size fits all here, right? So like with Neptune squaring, and I want to say too, with the south node, so the dispositor of the south node is Jupiter, right? In Sagittarius, or the ruling planet of Sag, right? So Jupiter has been basically with like a boot up its ass with like Pluto and Saturn for the last year. And like that to me, like kind of, I mean, you could say what you want about Pluto, but those sort of like secret meetings and like backroom deals, and to me that really registers as like corruption in the system. And so definitely like the getting really caught up in like what I believe as like the only thing, and like everybody should also believe this because it is the only thing and this is how I feel, and it's like very emotionally charged, like argument, right? And so both of these energies are being squared by Neptune, which is in Pisces. That's deception in the media. So
illusion,
right? And so I think that like the North Node in Gemini, Gemini when it's in its highest expression, because obviously Gemini is like a very polarizing sign, right? Where there's like light and dark, and there's good and there's evil, and there's binary, like we were talking about before we got on here. And in this binary sort of system, there isn't that much room for nuance, but the healthiest Geminis that I know have just like the strongest ability to be neutral, not neutral to suffering, not unable to recognize and register the frequency signature of evil, but they aren't in this like nervous system telomere reaction and response, right? So
Gemini, just like the highest, like it's like being able to see above the right and wrong, the left, the right, the up and down, the all of those things to this highest level, to be able to see that that's what's going on.
Thank you for joining me on today's show. To learn more about Activate Your Life podcast and my YouTube channel, just go to erinesser.com. Download the free gift at erinesser.com/healthy-boundaries. That is all for now. We'll see you next week.